Australia's rich cache of minerals and other natural resources has made it a major exporter to China, and China has also looked to invest in or simply acquire Australian commodity leaders. So what are the risks and rewards of this relationship? My guest is Martin Ferguson. He is Australia's Minister of Resources, Energy and Tourism. Minister, welcome to the program. Good to have you with us.
Good afternoon, and thank you.
Explain a little bit about the sort of context for the demand for natural resources right now. Everyone wants to know, China demand still healthy?
It's healthy, but we are a resources and energy-rich nation. It's not new. China's the newfound friend, but what about our traditional long-term investors such as Japan, Europe, North America? The resources are there to develop. The business sector makes the decisions to invest based on their expectations of the market.
All right. Now, when you talk about this expectations of the market, there is the demand of the market as well when you take a look at China. Recently, there have been efforts by several Chinese companies, let's say, to acquire rare earth companies in Australia, some blocked, some not blocked. What's the outlook for acquisitions in the resource area in Australia?
Well, Australia's built on the back of foreign investment. It's served us well. But each application will be considered on its merits. It's a non-discriminatory welcoming policy. You are right to raise the issue of rare earths, exceptionally important commodity. There was a proposed investment in Australia at the same time which China put export controls on exports of rare earths out of China. We decided it was not in our national interests. Alternatively, I attended the ceremony welcoming the biggest ever investment in Australia recently with respect to the coal mining industry, Felix Investments. The clear indication then was it was easy to do business in Australia, but we also accept each application has to be considered on its merits. It's not a new policy. It's served us well. Look at the Japanese investment. Foundation partners in the development of the LNG sector, the coal sector, the iron ore sector. It's about managing investment, return to shareholders and the development of our resources.
Talk about the development of the resource sector in Australia for just a moment, because whenever we hear about port congestion, Australia does seem to top the list. Is there a necessary infrastructure rebuild or upgrade that needs to take place?
Oh, there's always a requirement to invest in expanding capacity, but we've got some things right. We're the biggest exporter of coal, the third biggest exporter of uranium, and the fifth biggest exporter of LNG and a major exporter of iron ore. We've had some blockages on the east coast and the coal corridors, but the government has put money on the table to upgrade the rail corridors. The private sector is working out the coal loading facilities. It's also about improvements in productivity. Alternatively, on the west coast in the iron ore province, we've got the most efficient export chains in the world, BHP and Rio Tinto. But the pressures have meant that we've had to front up to some mistakes in the past.
You mentioned Rio Tinto. Can you give us any update on the detention of Rio Tinto employees and what that has done to the relationship between China and Australia?
Well, clearly it created some tensions, but in any partnership there are tensions from time to time. We have a tension with Japan at the moment on whaling. You have to manage those tensions. We clearly accept that the matter will be handled in accordance with the Chinese legal system. The potential nature of the charges have been downgraded, and the relationship between Australia and China, in my opinion, has been restored to normality. I continually meet not only the ambassador, but also potential investors and existing operators in Australia.
What about the relationship between Australia and, let's say, India, vis-a-vis the export of uranium? What is the status of that policy?
Well, clearly we've got a long-term position on uranium exports and accountability. That doesn't suit the Indian community at the moment. Alternatively, we have to handle difficulties in Australia with our own farmers with respect to access of Australian agricultural products to India. These are issues that are resolved over time, the normal course of the maturity of relationships between two countries.
If you talk about this relationship between two countries, is there a situation where Australia finds itself more and more dependent on the demand from places like India, like China? Is there a question that there's going to be a tipping point?
No, I actually think it's about managing investment and making sure you diversify where you actually sell your resources. But yes, there are new investments out of China, but alternatively, the Japanese are proposing to develop the Ichthys field, a new LNG project with investment in Japan, which also represents at Total the biggest ever potential investment by France in Australia. So yes, I suppose in the news at the moment, the Chinese activity makes a lot of the headlines, but Don't forget the ongoing investment out of Japan, companies such as Mitsubishi, Inpex, South Korea, you name it, they're interested in Australia because it's a safe haven for investment. We are a reliable and proven supplier of commodities.
I know that you're not doing anything with the interest rate. That sets with the central bank.
Absolutely.
But the increase in interest rates in Australia, what's been the effect in terms of the export sector? Has it been hurt?
No, it hasn't been hurt. Demand continues to grow, but also in terms of the investors, and I've met with a number of key CEOs here in New York this week, and also representatives of the financial community. They briefed me on further investments in Australia. They see Australia, and one CEO said it's the best place in the world to actually do business. We know the nature of the investment horizons. It is a country that is productive with respect to the productivity, a major focus of the Prime Minister, and we're going to continue to invest. They actually talked about doubling their output of coal in Australia over the next 5 years.
Doubling it over the next 5 years?
Yes.
Is there any chance that that will also have an accompaniment of inflation?
Well, clearly on the inflation front, the Reserve Bank at arm's length, the government has to give consideration of those matters, but so do we. We have to manage all this investment in terms of access to skilled labour. Clearly, we don't want any wage breakouts, which has an impact on inflation, potential impact on interest rates. So we have established a National Resources Labour Supply Committee working with business to manage each of the projects to make sure the labour is available.
All right. I want to thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a
Minister
delight.
Martin Ferguson coming to us really from Australia. Appreciate your insight into the world of raw materials, commodities, and the export economy.
And it's never been a better time to visit Australia. The competition and the airfares, and it's no different from going to LA.
I can tell you're a Minister of Tourism as well.
Absolutely.
Part of the portfolio. Thank you very much.